Nothing. We got a bunch of high-powered martial artists. Nobody wants to talk about.
Master Moody,
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I had put it up on the Facebook chat as well. I wanted to see if we could maybe go over a little bit more on summer camp ideas. I know I think Master Smith had talked about some of his summer camp ideas, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do summer camp already. I've been calling everybody that will be doing outdoor classes shortly once I get the permit in for the park. But I'm not getting a good response on people wanting to leave their house yet in my area. But regardless, I want to kind of get ready for potential summer camp.
Well, summer camp's an interesting thing to talk about for two things. One direction of summer camp is making sure that you're looking in the area in your community and making sure and identifying all the summer camps that are around and trying to build a relationship with those guys and inject yourself into their summer camp in some way.
Well, I'm doing that already. I meant like for myself doing summer camp.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, just to be thorough with everybody, there's a lot of opportunity there. And, my personal preference is to do as much of that as possible rather than potentially run, a lot of summer camps internally. That being said, if you want to run summer camps, and there can be a lot of opportunity for that too, because there's not a lot of competition, or there may not be a lot of competition in your area. So when you say you're looking for ideas, you mean what to do during the summer camp or how to market and fill it?
Not so much. I mean, for the summer camp, I'm mostly doing it internal just to kind of keep, to get some extra revenue. Yeah, they bring their friends, but just like keep our students, engaged on top of the classes and outdoor classes that we're doing. Because I'm already involved with all of the recreational summer camps in the area. And they don't want me to do anything live right now. They ask for me to do recorded videos, and they're going to promote our school. So I've been working with the recreational camps in my town. But I want to do a camp mostly, more importantly, like what can I do with a 6-foot distance? And any ideas? I mean, I've always run summer camps in the past and been successful. But now that we're just starting to reopen, as of 2 days ago, our governor did the stay-at-home order is finally gone. But we're still not allowed to open our doors quite yet, anything indoors. But hopefully by mid-June we can. I just want to come up with some ideas where we can do fun things at a 6-foot distance.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend 3 days on drills and things you can do with social distancing. That's that's a pretty robust topic. Let's talk about summer camps in general, right? Let me leapfrog off of what Master Moody said and kind of put us in two extreme camps. Probably the single most profitable summer camp operator in the United States or North America, with any type to martial arts schools is Paul Milton. And I don't see Paul on our meeting today, but they have 4 facilities and outside of Philadelphia, Allentown, in that vicinity that also are very substantial daycare, after school, transport after school care. But on the other side is, let's say me, who my reaction is I mostly despise summer camps. But let me tell you why, and then show you how you build off of that. Is one thing that I don't like about the way that martial artists view summer camps is they've come to view summer camps as the only way they can make money in the summer. And they go, oh, woe is me, summer is bad. It's hard for us to do enrollments. People are gone on vacation. How could we make money in the summer? Woe is me. And they, we could be a babysit during the day and have that be the way we make money. And I'm exaggerating for effect, but you get the idea. One is, we know that July and August can be 2 of your busiest months of the year for normal new enrollments, for renewals, cash. Certainly some people go on vacation, probably less so this year than normal. I think there's going to be a lot fewer people getting on airplanes, for instance, and traveling across the country. But if you're approaching summer camps as, I can't make money otherwise, so therefore I do this to make money, it's the extreme wrong frame to have on it. It's the same reason why an awful lot of martial arts schools started doing transport after school care, is they were just incompetent at running their school, and it seemed like an easy way to make additional money. That having been said, the thing to avoid with doing summer camps is avoid having 100% of your staff from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and burning them all the hell out before you get to real prime time, end of August, September, October, right? I see that happen a lot too, is people staff up with, they're running all day, every day, and then they have their staff working twice as hard as they would normally work. They burn them out over the summer, and then when you get to back to school and all of that, they're just exhausted.
Or you're doing it from 7 a.m. till whenever classes, and then what happens is no marketing gets done over the summer, and that's why the summer's bad. It's a vicious circle. So that I just like to add that, Master Oliver. If a school's trying to get off the ground, I've got to do summer camps, I can make money. I would also add the other piece of summer camp is it should be to generate referrals and business from external to the school.
It can be. I should might be a little strong, right? If you're going to really ramp it up as a big money making venture, then you don't want to rely just on internal promotions. Is that a better way to say it, Master Moody?
Yeah, if I'm going to bother doing it, I'm going to push pretty hard externally to my school to try to get as many possible people as I can to do summer camp in my school. If I end up making a lot of money, if I was going to do it and I'm in your camp, I don't want my staff to get burned out doing it. If I do run it, I want other staff. I'll have some of my, during the summer, sometimes I've run them, and I'll always hire the teenagers or the other staff or the other people that don't have stuff to do during the summer, that I'll pay them extra money, but it's damn well not going to be my main manager running the summer camp because they've got other stuff to do.
Yeah. But staying on this theme is, let's take the next step of maybe the easiest way and simplest way to run a summer camp, which, Master Smith, when he joins us, will, that it's one of his favorites, is to do quote unquote a rank advancement camp. So if you're normally doing belt promotion every 2 months, 16 lessons, you can get them 16 lessons in a week, or 16 lessons in 2 weeks, basically the hour equivalency, and you can promote it as come to camp for a week and you'll progress a belt level. And that's very popular. I mean, many schools can generate 20 people paying $400 a week to do that for a few weeks over the summer. So now you've got an extra 8,000 or an extra 10,000 or so forth. And you've got one way, and this kind of falls in what you were saying, Leo, I think, is now it's something extra for some of your students to come in and do something extra. I hate to have the mindset that for instance, I'm not saying you're saying this, but if I have all of my students here from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in place of daycare, let's say, all summer, that's going to make them more solid students, and that's going to anchor them in better to the school. I think usually it does the opposite. Is an awful lot of time you just kind of burn them out on the deal, and then when it goes back to normal, they're probably more likely to drop out. So, there's that spectrum, right? Now, this, I believe, and is just reading the circumstances, is an extremely unusual summer. One is coming off of what's essentially 3 months under house arrest in most areas, and with all of the other activities being shut down, and a lot of other summer camps have already bailed and aren't doing anything this summer, I think this is a very unusual summer in a couple of different ways. I think that July and August can be your best enrollment month ever, because there's huge amounts of pent-up demand. What the news and other people will focus on is the negatives. But see, the positive is, you got just all these people who for March, April, May, and now coming into June, hell, movie theaters are closed and other kids' activities were closed, and the soccer leagues were shut down, and baseball was shut down. Everything was shut down, right? And you are also coming into a period where it's less likely that they're going to Disney for the week, or they're getting on a plane and going pretty much any place else. So there's less national travel, less international travel, less of that kind of stuff that's going to be in the way. A lot of the other camps have shut themselves down already, so there's less daycare opportunity. And as businesses and the economy starts freeing up and schools are out of session as per more or less normal, is the kids need something to do, especially the younger ones need some, some place to go. And the parents, the ones that aren't working from home, certainly need some place to put them as well. So I think if you want to do a summer camp, and one of the ideas I've heard, which was not my idea, I forget where it came from. I was giving Greg Macy credit, but I don't think it was from Greg, was all the big hotels are just desperate for some activities going on. Is you could go probably very inexpensively rent their ballroom. And now, excuse me, instead of having 2,000 square foot to work with or 4,000 square foot, you might have 30,000 square foot to work with, right? So if you look at your facility and what your capacity is with keeping people 6 or 8 feet apart from each other, you could expand that capacity, greatly by going to the DoubleTree, the Westin, the Marriott, and negotiating a deal with them for the ballroom space. Because see, the way that the big hotel, the business hotels, really the reason that they have meeting space, a great deal of their business is driven by business meetings, right? And so when all of the business meetings go virtual and they're shut down from they have lots of empty space where they've had to lay off people one thing or another. And frankly, if you build in, they're going to do a box lunch for it. The way you get meeting space in hotels is you either book rooms or you buy food. And so if you did a box lunch that they serve, maybe a breakfast or a dinner on some of the days, you get the square footage itself very inexpensively, and they don't have a bunch of people vying for it right now. Probably what they had, if they're particularly successful, they had May, June, July, and August all booked up, and then everything canceled back in March and April. So that's one way if you really wanted to pump it up, promote externally. What was Greg's idea, as he said to me, which I thought, and again, as much as I have a distaste for camps generally, is I thought it was brilliant. He said, well, all the other camps are already canceled, and they have all of their staff who now are looking for Plan B, and they have all of the people who had booked are looking for Plan B. And how about if we did massive summer camps this year and sucked up all of that demand? I think that's right. Is if you wanted to go that direction, really go that direction, right? The thing I would add about that is any of the camps that have canceled, why not contact them? Find out, if they were hosting a camp for $300 a week, why not do a camp for $400 a week and give them 50 or 75 or $100 for every kid that they send you, that they shift over to your camp? They'll make more money than they were, probably they'll net more money than they would have netted otherwise. If they're at all open-minded, you say, look, next summer we'll work together and I'll drive a bunch of traffic since you're not doing it this summer. Who is your list of kids who normally would be there? Who are the ones that registered? How about if you drive the ones that are registered for me and I'll give you a percentage back? See, that you could drive a bunch of traffic just through that. Also, by the way, you could.
I was going to say, and they could write a letter like, we never, Master Oliver, we probably written a bunch of these. We never really recommended anybody before, but these guys are really great. We've been working with them for many years, whether you not you have, and they write a letter. Could I add one thing as you're saying this? Everybody keep in mind, this is so unusual that you could possibly do this stuff now. Normal years, you should be marketing your summer camp in February.
Yeah, January.
March. Yeah. That's when you market a summer camp. You don't market it in June.
Right.
So for thoroughness, I should throw that out there because this is what we get asked around this time of year every year. Hey, I want to do a summer camp. How do I fill it up? Or what should I do? That's not when you ask the question. But anyway, this year is the only time in history that this is somewhat reasonable.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, normally you should have it all sold out by, say, March, right? And start marketing it in January, February.
Because that's when the other ones go. That's when parents have to plan.
Yeah, yeah. You also want to set up your your co-promotional, your co-relationship opportunities with other camps early in the year. If you wait till May or June, you know, they've already, at least they think they've already planned out all the things they're going to do, and they think they don't need any support. And Leo, I'm not sure that's going where you wanted it to go. You know, from a standpoint of curriculum, you know, frankly, you know, there are so many things that you could do. We did a session for about 90 minutes, I think, 2 weeks ago. It's up in the Facebook group for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu School specifically on how to do social distance grappling and one thing or another. And within that, a bunch of our members who are very smart with that, much more so than I am or Master Moody or Master Smith as far as grappling. You know, they have some other references and resources and some people who've done some really, really good job on that. You know, from the standpoint of, you know, what I would do, you know, with kicking and punching, pretty much anything you would do normally. And if it would be a partner drill, just have them stand further back and, you know, and mimic each other. You can do all that kind of stuff, as well as doing everything defensively and offensively. It's a pretty.
I think my biggest question is if we do a summer, because I've always done summer camps, and I've done exactly what you guys have said, which I feel pretty good about. I usually have already people signed up for summer camp as of March or April.
Right.
But because our summer camps are, you know, they have lunch, we go to the park, we go to the pool, we do all these things. And this time around, I'm just nervous of having kids from 9 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock, making sure that they're not touching each other or on top of each other for that many hours. I'm hesitant because of that.
Jack,
Now, I already have my 3 camps laid out.
Can I say something, sir?
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yep.
So I just posted, we opened our summer, I mean, we're in Florida, so we're pretty reopened in comparison to everywhere else, but we reopened our summer camp on June 1st, and I did post in the group, we actually talked about summer camps on the Tuesday call. I posted in the group, the CDC and the YMCA came up with a summer camp guideline. So I posted that, and really if you read through it, there's nothing that says social distancing with the kids because they realize it's not feasible. So, you know, they're saying employees wear masks and keep them in small groups and don't have different groups sharing toys or things like that. But once you get the kids there and they're in their space and they're playing, they're going to share germs. They've got to take off their masks to eat. They're going to touch the same toys. So I think realistically, no parents have expectations of any of that happening, of them being socially distant or things like that. So take all the safety precautions. My suggestion is do all the same precautions that you're doing with your classes. Once they get into the room where they're hanging out or doing whatever, do it just like normal.
Yeah, but I would definitely pull those guidelines. Is that on the CDC site or the Y site or?
I actually posted it to the group, I believe.
Good.
The link to it.
Well, there you go. It's in the Facebook group.
I'm going to look for that then. Okay.
Yeah. And we were talking with Paul, it all runs together, but last week or earlier in the week, and in Pennsylvania, which is slow to open overall, but they reopened the daycares, I think, this last Monday. And he was saying the same thing, that the state guidelines and one thing or another aren't for the smaller kids to wear masks at all because of the messing around with it one thing or another. And I'm on the conservative side from the school standpoint. You know, I'd rather you give everybody a mask and they're private branded, and you know you have the hand sanitizer and you have them wash their hands, everything else. On the school side, I really want it to be a slow dimmer switch, right, where you maintain a high perception of being overly cautious. On the daycare side, as Rachel said, I mean, it is unrealistic to have a bunch of 6-year-olds, you know, and tell them they're going to wear a mask all day during snack time and lunch and dinner, one thing or another. And Rachel, sounds like they want to keep it in groups of 5 or 10 rather than groups of 50 or 70 is kind of the main takeaway.
Yeah, the biggest thing is promoting like hand washing and stuff like that. So
Right.
We did a staff training, and I actually, in that same post, I posted what our staff training was and what
Good.
we saw to the parents that we're doing.
Thank you. I'm sure that'll be very helpful for everybody. And Leo, but the other point I'm hearing is an awful lot of the other activities that you're doing are closed. Is that what I'm hearing? So the swimming pool.
What do you mean?
Well, what I was here is we normally do a swimming pool and we do this, and we do this, and we do this. So some of those other activities may not be open. Is that your concern?
That's correct. Right now, the playgrounds obviously are still not open. I mean, right now I'm getting my insurance to be able to use my local park for 5 days a week. They told me I can use it every single day as long as there's available time. So today I just sent them the insurance that we can start outdoor classes next week with a schedule. So I'm going to do camp the same way if I did it, but the pools are not opening yet. So I'm just trying to figure out what the best way of doing camp is. I think for New Jersey, we can't do camp anyway till the beginning of July. And again, I'm trying to keep the same dates that I promoted back in January and February, so that way everyone already knows that we're doing this. And I just want to kind of hear, and I'm looking up on Facebook right now. My internet's a little slow with all the CDC guidelines and everything else are.
Yeah, look that up. I think the parents, maybe not so much the kids, but the parents at least are going to recognize that a lot of your normal things you can't do because you can't do, right? You can't take them all to the movie theater until they start opening, et cetera. But, you're just going to have to deal with what you're going to have to deal with. It further anchors in why the hell are you going to do a camp unless you're going to make $500,000 over the summer from it, right? The main thing I would say is just don't let this happen, which is typical. And by the way, I used to run one of the biggest martial arts tournaments in the country as well. And what the tournament promoter syndrome is 2 months before the tournament, their martial arts school goes like this. And then they gross this much at the tournament. If you averaged them all out, it's about what they would have grossed from the school otherwise, except they had a bunch of pain in the ass and expenses from the tournament and killed their school during the time, right? I didn't have that because I had a different worldview on it, but that's typical, right? Same thing is what happens with camps is, here's where the school is going. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that July and August become this. And then here's the revenue from the camp. And you average them all out. We work 14 hours a day in order to gross the same amount. You can't let that syndrome happen, right? It's got to be the school is normally here and it stays here or goes up. And then the camp revenue is here and you staff it up separately. One of the, other than Paul Miller, who's on the, on the extreme, is another friend of mine, Will Mayer, back when he was running a school in Columbia, Maryland. He made a fortune every summer from camps, and I can't give you the exact number anymore. But he made a fortune every year with summer camps. But basically what he did is he hired a woman who had a master's in education administration and was a administrator with the local schools. She ran everything. She hired staff for it. She put his martial arts instructors in for like an hour a day where they would teach him a martial arts class. And then he did all the marketing overlay to it. And probably every summer he made an extra couple $100,000 net from it with minimal, again, inflation adjusted, I don't know. Paul does well over $1 million each summer from camps. But that's like the single most successful other than him that I've seen from a pure martial arts school standpoint. And as Master Moody said a minute ago, to anchor it is he wasn't depending upon his students to be the only way of filling it up. And so he was looking at, I'm going to fill it up externally as well as with my students. And then the ones I fill it up externally, I'm going to create a mechanism to convert them into normal martial arts students the rest of the year. Don't miss that point of it as well.
And Oliver, Rachel's CDC post was yesterday, so that's easy for everybody to find.
Excellent. Bob, you said there was a couple of people had questions before we move into my.
Yes, sir. I saw William Long was trying to ask around the same time as Leo, and then Alexia also had a question. So where's William at? William.
Earth to William. Okay.
Alexia is ready to ask.
Did you have a question, Alexia?
Am I really? Okay. So, hi guys. Yeah. So I kind of feel like I am all over the place. I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but it's like we're on, we're off, we have teachers, we don't have teachers, staff is in, staff is out, people are in, people are out. Like this is how I feel, because it feels crazy. And no matter what I do, like the classes are rolling on virtual, everyone's happy and it's all chugging along, and you know, we're creeping up very slowly, but with numbers, it's fine. But like, oh, what do I do now? Like, I just feel as the boss, you know, I have no idea what the next steps are. Like, are we pushing September? You know, like, are we pushing camp? Do we not focus on, like, I feel very like all over the place. I feel like everything's all over.
Can I answer that for her, Master? I mean, right
I
now,
feel crazy is what I do. I feel crazy right now because it's so wacky.
what you have to do, and Master Oliver, you might jump in on this after
I have the answer, but go ahead.
Okay, you got the answer. I got the answer. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You first.
Well, I tell you, for our Quick Start group, the number one thing that you should be doing right now is making sure that you have all of your students engaged on your online or in your school program. Number one. Number next, make sure your marketing is in line so you have the intro enrollment process going. And do you know how to do that marketing? Because it is different than before the coronavirus. We know what's working better now, and I'll let Master Oliver elaborate on that. But after you get that intro enrollment process, now summer's coming up. If you want to do a summer camp, now's the time to start doing the summer camp. You could even do a summer camp virtual to add just by doing it with martial arts. You know, like in our summer camp, we do 2 hours of martial arts, a morning class and an afternoon class.
Well, ballet.
Okay, let me step in and answer the question before we cycle back to camps, Master.
That was the end of mine anyway.
Okay. Alexia, number one, go through everybody, go back a year of anybody who's missing in action. They didn't sign up for the next thing. They didn't renew. They were signed up and they haven't shown up on Zoom meetings, and make a concerted effort to get them back in. Okay. Number two, make sure all the people who are attending are really solid. And number three, let's go add 100 new students, like right the hell now. Okay. And that's the entire worldview of what you want to focus on.
Sure.
Okay.
So, you know, like Peach Star, neither one of my counties has it. For virtual, I did one thing for an adjacent county. It's like, you know, out of the way for people really to drive, but, you know, it's on the edge. I picked a bunch of the elementary schools. So Fairfax County and Loudoun County both don't have it. I know. So the next thing is, you know, like putting it up on the moms groups and pushing that out and putting it on the patch and putting it on the, you know, I've been doing that with the Eventbrite for the camps, and then also for the forward moving safe open houses and stuff like that. But like at the same time, I feel the sales process is fine. It's actually, I really truly believe it's like the mechanical stuff, like getting paid right, and like you know, the systemized stuff, but also disseminating it to my staff, like without making it so complicated. Because especially when we're virtual, it's like, you know, I spend half my time looking for freaking passwords. I don't know if that's, you know, for, you know, running the money stuff. For like my, you know, my staff can't get into the CRM, so they can't see the person's phone number or doing the attendance on the Google Sheets, whatever. Do anybody feel this way, or am I just super disorganized or feeling disorganized?
The solution that Google, Apple, and every other big tech company is trying to solve is the fact that everybody has 9,823 different passwords, and all the software that's processing money and so forth wants you to change it every 6 days or some stupid thing like that. And you can't keep track of any of it. And, you know, if I didn't have cookies, I wouldn't be able to survive 12 hours, much less 12 days. So no, you're not alone in the frustration of secure walls and multiple passwords and all of that stuff, right? Where I think you probably are in a mode of is probably overcomplicating an awful lot of that stuff.
Probably.
Your monthly revenue collection, how is that happening?
So I was on one program that was all like type it in type of situation, but it did automate it. And
Right.
then when Corona hit, I had no ability to really do that and make sure that all of my staff who are also helping with whatever we're doing could do it. So right now I have like 2 or 3 different versions of money collection, and I just feel all over the place.
Yeah, get rid of that. My suggestion would be talk to Jeff Cole and have him set up the Simple Tuition software for you, and then he can set up the processing by distance, by website, by dongle, everything else, where you can collect credit cards, not checks, but where you can collect everything up front and process it in one place, and also where you can just automate the monthly billing. You know, it's the simplest, powerful enough for what we need, and simplest and cheapest otherwise software package that we found. So it's with Jeff, he's just integrating a good working relationship with the merchant providers and facilitating that, and a software called Simple Pay, which is a very powerful but simple. You know, you don't want software packages that are robust because they're complicated. You really want, nowadays, you want it to do one thing and do one thing well, and that's really all you want to do. So to solve that, Alexia, I would talk to Jeff Cole. His information is in the member site. If you go,
I got it.
yeah. Okay. From the standpoint of like feeling like you're all over the place, start every day blank legal pad. You know, I used to say go to Starbucks and make sure nobody's bothering you and sit in the corner. But start the day with a blank legal pad. Get away from, you know, family members, kids, staff. Turn off your phone. Don't check your text messages, and just start every day with a blank slate and say, what are my top 3 priorities today, right? And one of those is always get new members, right? So before you go to bed, do the same thing. Take the blank pad and say, what are the primary things I can do to generate some new members tomorrow, right? And there's only 3 priorities for anybody who runs a school like ours. It's get new members, keep them a long time, renew them to a higher level. And if something that you're screwing around with doesn't facilitate one of those 3 things, and if you're not focusing on those 3 things every day, then you're missing the boat, right? And where, you know, I know you do ballet, but where most technical teachers, whatever it is, they get focused on curriculum without going through their mind of, is this facilitating retention, and is this facilitating moving people up to the new level, or is this just me exercising my hobby because it entertains me?
So, right.
Or they get caught up in the business operation stuff, which sounds like what's driving you nuts. You get caught up in the technical parts of the business operations, but it's not one of those 3 things.
Yeah.
Sure, and that's the problem. But in order to offload it, it has to be simple enough to train somebody else to do it, or it needs to be simple enough that it's like a.
I think.
Oh, and what specifically are you having trouble offloading?
Everything.
Well,
I feel like I don't want to take up the time of the group. I think I have a couple of things that I can do for the next couple of days, and then I can bug you about like where my head is.
I think Can I say something for everybody? Everybody has the same entrepreneurial problem. You've got an infinite number of things you could put on your list to do. Everybody on the call has an infinite number of things that they could do. Every single person, and everybody probably fails to some degree to focus on the three things Master Oliver said. And it's really important to figure out how you're going to personally do that. My suggestion is always from 8 in the morning till 3 for martial arts schools, you're not allowed to do anything except for marketing. And from 3 to 7 is sales or instruction for the ones who are teaching, but sales and instruction. And from 7:30 on is your admin and other stuff, period. And if you discipline yourself that way, it's just really cut and dry, really stupid, simple, and that is it. Yeah. And if the toilet overflows, you put a sign on the school and the toilet, it's out of order, you turn it off, and you close the toilet, and they got to use somewhere else to go to the bathroom, and then you go to your market.
Until 9 o'clock tonight, and then you can fix
it. Until after 7 o'clock, then you fix the damn toilet. To me, that's the best metaphor to use, because what a lot of you will do is, oh crap, the toilet well, that's funny. Now, no pun intended. Oh crap, the toilet overflowed, and I got to fix the toilet, or I got to fix the light. Well, you can live without the light.
Yeah, and by the way, the biggest failure staff will have, I can tell you from multiples. You call them, what happened tonight? Well, the computer broke down, and the door broke, and we had a problem. The toilet. Well, I don't care about all of that stuff. How many intros? How many enrollments? How many renewals? Well, we didn't get around to that because, that's the, they're fired, get somebody who's not a moron in, right? I don't care. The front door is broken. Fine, I can have somebody come and put plywood or whatever later. The fire got, I've got all kinds of stories about like the fire inspector shows up at 5 o'clock and wants to shut us down for the day. And I had somebody take the lock. He wanted a crash bar, not a turn lock on it. So I had somebody just take the lock off and said, look, do I have to take the door off, or is just taking the lock off so it just pushes open adequate for you? And he looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I'm not closing. I've got 5 renewals, 7 enrollments tonight. And, if you want to cart me out in handcuffs, that's fine. I've got staff here. I'm going to do the enrollments and renewals. What's it going to take for me to deal with this tomorrow, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who it is and how official they are. You've got to stay on task, right?
But the problem is it's mostly not the officials like that. Mostly it's us, or mostly it's our staff saying, oh, the toilet broke, or the thing, and the thing, and the thing. And it's not that crap. It's the 3 things he just said. That's the only things. But Stephen Covey has the big story about the big rocks. Yeah. It is useful and illustrative. But I think it's important in Alexia, you're not taking everybody's time. It's really everybody's time, because I think we all can kind of fail in this of not focusing on the big things. And for this call, for this group, it's those 3 things.
I like your timetable. I can live inside of a timetable, like a schedule.
That's the timetable. That's the timetable.
I really like the schedule. Like, that actually helps me a lot. Like, you just fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a few automated systems that, schedule wants and other stuff like that. So you can put appointments in there, and what's going on during the day, because you can look at your Google Calendar or whatever that's going to show you what.
And don't fix those until after 7:30.
Yeah.
Don't touch those. Don't even write that note down, and don't look at it till after 7:30.
You just need to look at it to see what you have scheduled, so you know what you're going to be, who you're going to be talking to.
There are times slotted out. I had a full-time, CFO working for me for a while. And finally, I trained him. You have this window to this window to talk to me about stuff. You can't talk to me about any other time during the day, and you certainly can't talk to me on the way into a staff meeting or on the way into one of the schools. You've got to train, all of the people around you are trainable. CPAs know that I'm not going to take their call directly. We'll schedule an appointment. Accountants, lawyers, etc. Anybody else's lawyer, well, they can go take a flying leap. I'll get back to them next year, right? So, you just gotta you control your schedule rather than vice versa. Dan Kennedy wrote a great book on that, Time Management for Entrepreneurs or something like that. But I mean, he's more
OBS Time Management for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We required reading.
It really should, because he's more militant than anybody that I've ever seen. But you don't want to be responding to inbound texts, responding to inbound calls, letting people just, interrupt your schedule. Now, I'm not talking about you got a new prospect and they're calling to make an appointment, but all the normal routine business stuff. I see people get, they're sitting in their school and the Valpak rep comes in and they talk to him for an hour and 20 minutes. And then the guy who wants to sell you a merchant account comes in, and then it's no. That's fine. Give me your call. I'll call you when I'm free to schedule an appointment. I'm free on Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 11. We can schedule an appointment then. I mean, you gotta be on top of that. In the school environment is one of the biggest time sucks is parents or students, wanting to sit down and talk to you about things right then and there. And retention is very important. Renewal is very important. Referrals are very important. So I don't want to make them angry and diss them, but my training for my staff was always, what they usually say is, hey, do you have a minute? Well, number one, if you don't look busy, there's a problem, because you should look busy, right? You should be buried in the phone, or you should be talking to people, or you should be doing whatever. But, my script was always, you look at your watch, you say, well, I've got something that I need to get done right now, but what specifically did you need, right? Now, what specifically do you need ranges from, I just wanted to have a talk with you about Billy's dad and what an asshole he's been and what's going on and how that's affecting his progress. Well, see, that's one of those I can schedule for 20 weeks from Tuesday at 9 a.m., right, by appointment. I'm not going to take prime time to let that person walk into the office. But, true story, I had one that said, well, we have our Boy Scout PAC meeting, PAC meeting next week. There's going to be 220 Boy Scouts there. And what we were going to do fell through. I wondered if you might be interested in doing something. I think it was actually 48 hours later. Well, I'm going to interrupt everything else I'm doing for that one. Sure, come on in. Let me go finish my conversation with Mrs. Jones. I'll be right there, right? But that question, the perception of being busy, what specifically did you need? Somebody has, well, I wanted to give you that $20,000 to pay off my program. I've got time right now for that. I want to have you come and do the thing for 300 Girl Scouts. I have time to do that. But I don't have time to hear the long, involved, drawn out about the divorce or whatever else it might be. And probably 75% of conversations that people want to take with you in prime time are stuff that they think is important, but it's not important right then and there, right? And frankly, if you schedule, I like to schedule it where I'll schedule an appointment with you 9:30 a.m. on Thursday. By then they don't even feel the need to have the conversation with you. Does that make sense? So that keeps you from that distraction.
And that's
Timetable's great. Timetable just made me very happy.
And that system you use, Master Oliver, and I forgot it, but it's that.
That's Steve Covey's time management grid.
Right.
Is 4 quadrants: urgent and important, not urgent and important, urgent, not important, not urgent, important. Right. So it's always sorting everything out that needs to be done into one of those 4 categories, right? Not urgent, not important is probably Mrs. Smith's conversation about, her ex and what's going on. Important to her, not important to me at all. As long as I can get out of it without pissing her off, right? Urgent or not urgent, but important is usually every step in the renewal process, because they're not presenting themselves to you right then and there that this has to be done. And then the biggest mistake is it turns into next month, next quarter, never happens, right? Urgent and important is new lead came in from the website and I need to call them within 30 seconds of the lead coming in, or else my conversion ratios go down. That's truly is important and it truly is urgent, right?
And they want to pay off their program. That's urgent and important.
Yeah, yeah. Or at least it's important, and I don't want it to slip away. A lot of what we deal with is presented as urgent, and in reality is not important for our mission. But yeah, he wrote a book called First Things First, which is purely on time management, but really the time management part in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People or 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens is just as good. But it's always looking at roles and goals, looking how it fits in, and then defining what you do by, is this urgent and important? Is it not urgent and important? Those two are very obviously important, and not to be simplistic, but the urgent and non-important tends to suck up time. And then the not urgent, not important tends to be just time wasting activity, right? And sometimes it's important. Sometimes you need to rejuvenate, laying on the beach can be important, right? But you've got to not get sucked into the urgent but not important stuff.
Also,
that keeps you from doing the important but not urgent things.
got it.
Yeah. That's
And-
what you were talking about, right, Master Smith?
I just posted the Dan Kennedy book, so I recommend that highly to everybody.
If anybody's good with Zaps, I would really appreciate somebody on the Facebook group being like,
You could schedule an appointment with Merrick. To ask Bob to schedule a time with Merrick, and Merrick can fix whatever you're having trouble with.
God bless him, because I cannot. Yesterday I spent like an hour on it, and I was like, this is so stupid, and it still doesn't work.
No, Merrick is our hidden tech genius that rarely shows his face. So just ask Bob to schedule a time with you with Merrick to solve that. He can do the share the screen. If you give him the login, he can just do it for you. Yeah, no problem. Don't get bogged down in that. Anybody who doesn't know what Zapier is, it's middleware where you have this software package and this software package, and you can put Zapier in the middle to get this one to share data with this one or vice versa, which sometimes is the only solution. It's, by the way, why I don't like most of the software packages for martial arts schools, because they don't have what's called an AP bridge, so that you can share data from place to place. Things that we use like Schedule Once, Call Loop, etc. They all are able to share data back and forth. So you can get a simple app that's inexpensive that does one thing well, and then it can share with a different app that does one thing well. Anybody trying to program like a program to do everything usually doesn't do much very well.
In our niche especially.
Oh yeah, because it's too small, right? If I was in the restaurant niche, there's a jillion of those, and there's a one that I see in all the restaurants is Aloha. The QuickBooks is a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, they're going to do what they do well, but somebody who writes a program that has 1,000 installs are not going to be able to support that very well. Okay. Was there another question before we move on? No. Okay. Last week we covered enrollment conference in what I think was pretty good depth. And that was as a follow-up to Amanda and Keith Olson doing their process on how they've been doing virtual enrollments off of Facebook and other sources, right? So if you missed either one of those, go back to the recording. As a reminder, in the enrollment conference, I defined it as basically having 3 pieces. One is instructor feedback on how they're doing, which is mostly designed to reassure them that they're not a complete idiot, or their kid isn't a complete klutz, or relative to other 7-year-olds, they're actually as good, if not better. So one was feedback. 2 was pre-qualification, asking questions. Nick Kokinis used to call it 7 magic questions, but it's basically doing pre-qualification questions so that you can handle what otherwise comes up with as objections before they become objections, right? One example is, are you pretty permanent in the area? Well, I get to it's a 1-year contract and it's $697 to register and it's $297 a month, I can get, well, you know, we might get transferred or we might move. I'm not sure I feel comfortable with that. But if I handled it before I got to a contract, before I really got into the pricing, it's a whole different conversation. And it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle and go back to, well, I thought, and you said, no, I mean, you've got to get that stuff out of the way, right? So it's feedback from an instructor standpoint. Then it's, are you permanent in the area, and what 2 times a week are you going to be coming to class? And you know, is this budgetarily going to work? And are you going to set a goal, follow through with this? You know, is everybody who needs to be here, all the decision makers present? It's knocking all that stuff out. And then it was the presentation of the tuition. And a key element, and I mentioned it last time, but a key element is, for want of a better way to say it, I don't ever want someone to try to make a compound decision. I don't want them to decide, do I want A or B, and do I want C or D in the same breath. And I don't ever want to talk about numbers where they can't just add it in their head and keep it simple, right? Rule number 1 is, if you confuse them, they do nothing. And, you know, in the political realm, you see if they're, you know, you're losing if you're having to explain. Well, it's the same true as is in sales. If you don't keep it simple and keep it non-complicated and have them understand it immediately, once you confuse them, that's where you pop up the, well, we're going to go home and think about it. When what they don't want to say is, well, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm so goddamn confused that I can't figure out. They very rarely say that, right? What they say is, well, okay, I've got some notes. Can you give me the price sheet? We're going to go home and talk about it and figure out what we want to do. So rule number 1 is you can't ever confuse them. Rule number 2, never ask them to make 2 decisions or more at once. 1 decision at a time, right? So I see a lot of people who present it's 500 down and 129 a month, or it's 150 down and it's 179 a month. Which would you rather do? I don't like that, because it's asking them to make a decision on how much they can pay today and how much they want to pay monthly. And it's also asking them to either directly or indirectly consider the financial benefit of both. And it's too complicated. Is that making sense? So I always like 1 thing at a time, keep it simple, no compound decisions, and nothing to interrupt the flow. My other rule is I never let my program director ever touch a calculator. If you stop in the middle and you start calculating things, that's when you lose people. I mean, if worst case scenario, think of a time when you've gone to a car dealer and they were bad, and now they're running the calculator, or you get into the manager's office and they've got all the things going. Does that give you a warm feeling, or does that irritate, frustrate you, and stress you out, right? You want to maintain that warm feeling all the way through. So far, so good. But let's back this up a number of steps, right? And let's go back. You go back to the second intro, the first intro, first contact. Let's walk through a general outline of what the steps are, right? So 1 funnel, if you want to use that new terminology, but 1 process is they see you somewhere. They get a postcard in the mail, they get a letter in the mail, they see a bandit sign, they pick up a rack card, they got your flyer off a pizza box, they saw an ad on Facebook, they Googled martial arts lessons, and they saw your pay-per-click ad, or they found you through SEO. The next door neighbor gave them a guest pass, whatever it is, right? But 1 path is they pick up the phone and they call you. That's admittedly always the easiest path, right? They don't call you if they're not a buyer. So they call you, you handle the info call. The info call, then the only purpose of the call is to make an appointment for which they're likely to show up, and make sure you've gotten good information, name, phone number. I would prefer name, phone number, email, and mailing address. But to make an appointment for which they're likely to show up. And I say it that way specifically because you can tell them, you can get them to tell you when they're going to make an appointment, and then never have them answer your phone call again. That's by being too pushy, right? Or you can be really nice and really friendly and really bubbly and never get an appointment. And usually that means you just gave them too much information. Or you can handle it appropriately where you get an appointment for which they're comfortable with showing up, right? So we're gonna have a phone call, handle a phone call with the info call, make an appointment, then we're gonna confirm the appointment. Master Smith mentioned it a minute ago, and there's a variety of options. We don't have any vested interest in any of them, but we use Call Loop. And what Call Loop will do is it'll email them 4 times as a reminder for an appointment. It'll text message her 4 times as a reminder for an appointment. The emails will give them a link where they can go reschedule themselves if the time that they scheduled isn't good, right? It's not the end all and be all of getting a high show rate, but it helps, right? So I get a call, I make an appointment for which they're likely to show up, and we can go through the info call process, but I'm just trying to do the outline quickly. And then what we have to do is put it somewhere where it doesn't get lost. Master Smith again mentioned Google Calendar or iCal in your iPhone, tied into something like Schedule Once. So you have an automated system to get the appointment reminders, and you have something where you can have it in your phone, your instructor can have it in their phone, program director can have it in their phone, and you can just, what appointments do I have today? And it's easy to find, right? So in that process, then what I want to do is call to confirm. My rule of thumb has always been call them the night before, call them an hour or so before the appointment. I had this argument with Amanda Christensen recently, and her perspective is it's easier to call them for an evening appointment in the morning. And my perspective is I want to call them an hour before because otherwise they're going to forget I exist, right? Maybe both is right. But what I want to do is I want to call until I get hold of them. As Master Moody says all the time, I call, I leave a voicemail, I text, and then I email, right? The reason for that sequence oftentimes is people don't answer a phone number that they don't recognize. So back at the info call, one of the things I want to integrate is this number you just called on, is that a mobile number? Great. What I'm going to do is text you over right now our contact information. Let me know when you get it. Oh, okay. Well, if you want to just push that and then hit create new contact, now when you drive to the school, you have the address, you can map it or Google Maps or whatever. You have our phone number, you have the email address. It should whitelist the email so it shows up. And if we're calling to confirm or whatever, you'll know that it's us, right? So you want to incorporate that into the first contact always, okay? So I'm going to call and confirm the night before. I'm going to call if it's a 7 o'clock appointment. I would usually start calling about 4 o'clock and was really getting stressed out if I didn't get hold of them by about 5:30. But I'm calling to confirm a few hours before the appointment so that, again, what happens is if you have an appointment and they no-show, it's much more difficult to get it rescheduled than you have an appointment that you then call them and they had something else come up and they reschedule. For whatever human psychological reason, I've always found that once they stand you up, it's more difficult to reschedule than it is to reschedule before they stand you up. Is that making sense? Okay. So they call you. My mission is to get an appointment for which they're likely to show up, share the contact information, and make sure I've got their name, address, phone number, and email address preferably, right? Then before the appointment, I'm calling to confirm the night before and the day of, right? And when I call and I leave a voicemail, I text and I email. They don't answer the phone, right? Then I have the intro. And in training my staff for the intro, I always broke it down into 3 chunks. The greeting at the front door and how they were dealt with the first 10 minutes. And I find more often people screw that up than actually screw up the class. And then how I go about the reschedule process to make sure they're coming back prepared to enroll next time, right? So the schedule one, the first part on the greeting, of course, it's a little different if you're on Zoom versus it's at the school. I'll just assume we're back in the school for the time being. At the school, I had several things I always trained the staff. One, I wanted to greet everybody within 3 feet of them walking in the door, right? Preferably they walk through the door and I say, oh, you must be Billy. You know, so glad to meet you. I'm Master Oliver and you must be Susie. You know, glad to have you. Notice I'm greeting them by name. I know who they are. With kids, I'll get down on one knee and say, hi, you must be Billy. You know, in the social distancing era, I may not be shaking their hands, but I'm still going to get down at their level, right? I'm not going to be towering over them. But that greeting process is very important. So now let's say they show up 5 or 10 minutes before a small group class is starting. Rather than just say, go over there and hand them the information, I want to walk them through. Fantastic, you're here a little early. What I'd like to do is get you to fill out this information for me if you don't mind. Specifically, it'd be really useful to know this. What you can do is come on over here. This is our intermediate class. We call it level 2, but it's people who've been here for at least a year and not yet for 2 years, more or less. And you'll see there's 4 different belt ranks in there. There's this, and this, what those mean are, right? I'll give them a little bit of a background. What you may want to do if you have time is give them a little tour through the school. And this is this, and this is this, and this is our instructor, and you know, whatever it might be. But what I do not want to do is just, here, fill this out, go sit over there, and they sit there for 12 minutes, right? I want it to be, we're going to get started at this time. Here's what's going on in this class. Let me give you a little bit of an explanation. If you can fill this out, and then I'm going to keep an eye on, as soon as they fill that out, I'm going to go trade them. Here's some information about the school. Here's some feedback from our other students, et cetera. And we have 2 more people who are supposed to be here, and then we'll get started right away, right? So I want to have that dialogue. See, first impressions are everything. And by the way, in the school, I'll always make sure, has the door been Windexed? Are there 22 fingerprints? Is the impression as I come in good? Are there 22 pair of shoes, all of which stink? So as soon as I open the door, does it knock me over, right? I'm going to be aware of all of that stuff. And by the way, that was a shock to me, is finally about a year ago when I walk into a martial arts school, I can smell it. If you guys know what I mean, when you're in there every day, you can't smell it anymore, right? So you've got to be aware of all of those things that are the first impression coming in, right? All the air cleaners and all the stuff and everything is fresh on the way in. So step 1 is inbound call. Handle it in such a way that I'm going to make an appointment for which they're likely to show up. Confirm the appointment the day before, day of. Greet them effectively at the front door. Then I'm going to teach a class which only has one purpose. They come back prepared to enroll next time. It really doesn't matter if they got the elbow right, they got the knee right, they stood in the right stance, that they did power in the punch. None of that stuff matters. I can fix any of that stuff after they've enrolled. I want them so excited about how great this thing is that they come back next time prepared to enroll. See, again, you lose sight of what's important. You get an instructor who's trying to get this exactly right or the body position exactly right. I can fix all that later. What I want them to do is come back next time prepared to enroll. Period. Right? Now, for the parent to come back next time prepared to enroll, I've got to show them that there's all kinds of benefits beyond the physical, right? For the child to come back prepared to enroll, I've got to have clicked off all the right endorphins so that they had a lot of fun. And I've got to create visuals in their mind enough that they really picture them being, you know, the next Ninja Turtle or whatever, right? So I've got to create a visual in the child, got the endorphins kicking off so that they're have fun and excited. And for the parents, I've got to create the visual of, this is creating my child to be valedictorian, honor student, off to Harvard, off to West Point. That's what I've got to create. Does that make sense? So then I get to rescheduling the class. And again, you can pick this up at milehighkarate.com/second lesson. But the script is basically, I want to, make sure you go through this information as a family, pick what 2 days a week is going to work for you. Next time, we're going to sit down and do an evaluation. We require both parents and anybody involved with transportation or finances to be here, right? And we'll go ahead and finalize Billy's enrollment, get him started, and get the program started for you next time, right? A little more complicated if you go on the site, but not much. I want them to do some activity at home, self-discipline sheet for the parents, memorize the student creed, which is the, basically the equivalent of getting them to do a little practice at home and do some memorization so they get a reward next time. But main thing is I want them to, one, show up next time, and two, be prepared to enroll. So I've got to not be so focused on money and price and stuff that I scare them off. And I've got to be focused enough on the enrollment for next time that they come back expecting that that's what the process they're going to go through. Does that make sense? So then I have the second lesson, and I have the same cycle. Maybe they're in schedule once, they're getting automatic reminders, but depending upon how far away it is, which I don't want it to be more than 48 to maybe 72 hours away. But if I scheduled it for tomorrow, I'm not going to call them when they get home and confirm again. But if it's scheduled more than a day out, I'll call them the night before. I'll call them the day of. I'm going to confirm. But this time in the confirmation, I want to know. Both parents are going to be here. They've gone through the information. They've talked about the program. The child is excited about it, right? So when I'm going through the conversation, it's going to be fantastic. This is Master Smith, Oliver at Mile High Karate. I was calling to confirm Billy's class for tomorrow night. Seemed like he had a lot of fun Monday night. How's he liking the class so far? Oh, he had a ball. He really enjoyed it. Fantastic. Have you and his dad had a chance to go through all that information I sent home? I know there was quite a bit, but I was hoping you'd have a chance to go through that and really have a good sense of how all that works. Oh, yeah, we've sat down at the kitchen table and we went through all that. Well, of course, most of them don't say that, but that's what I'd like it to be, right? Has Billy had a chance to memorize the student creed? Have you been working on that? Well, we worked on it a little bit. What you might do is before you come down, make sure you work on it a little bit more so it's fresh in his mind, because if he's got that memorized and he did the self-discipline sheet, he'll earn his white belt, right? So what am I doing? Let's make sure and set him up for success and go through that. I just wanted to confirm also that it's a good time for you and his dad to be here. Now, keep in mind, they lie to you a lot. So a lot of times she says, oh, yeah, his dad's going to be able to bring him down tonight. Well, what did she just say? I asked, are you and his dad going to be able to be here tonight? And she just told me he's bringing him down. I'm not going to be there, as response to me asking, are you both going to be there? Right? So, and this is the hardest thing with staff, is teaching them how to listen to what people say. They're so busy going through the script that they don't hear what the other person says, right? So on that one, I follow up with, is this a good time for you as well? No, I got called into work. I'm not going to be able to be here tonight. Oh, okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and schedule a time for tomorrow, the next day, when both you and his dad can both be here, and then we'll go through the evaluation, go through all of that then. What's your schedule look like tomorrow or Friday, whatever? Well, I know I can't do it tomorrow. We have a thing we're going to, but Friday would be good. What time do you have Friday? We could do 6:30. Okay, yeah, perfect. You see what I'm saying? I want to make sure that I'm scheduling a time with both parents. And if they're coming in for the second lesson, I'm not going to have both parents. I'm pre-scheduling a third time when I'm going to have both parents. Does that make sense? So, and again, this is assuming they're coming into school. We can go through all the modifications with Zoom and all that stuff. We've done that several times. The recordings are in the Facebook group and in the site. But so I want to make sure they're prepped, right? Now, when they come into the school, I'm going to go through the same questionnaire. Now, sometimes it's in my mind. I've got a man and a woman standing there with a kid. I know that she's mom. I'm not sure who dad is, right? So, and by the way, I've gotten all the way through this to have mom say, I need to have his dad here. and her husband was sitting there with it. Well, it turns out he's the new husband, and the old husband, who's the parent of the kid, wasn't here and missed the step, right? So I'm going to say, oh, you must be Joey's dad. Oh no, I'm Tom. I'm the stepfather. Oh, okay. Is Bill going to be able to make it down today? No, he wasn't able to make it down, right? Now, remember, who's the worst person in the world to be the messenger to take the price sheet and go get the ex-husband to pay or help pay for the thing, right? I'm never going to let mom go, or dad, but mostly it's mom. I'm never going to let mom go try to pitch her ex to help with this thing. I'm going to make sure that I get him face to face, right? Or I get him on video, nowadays. So as I go through the process as greeting, what's my checklist? I have both parents. Then I have all decision makers. Also, they've talked about it, worked on the student creed. The kid is excited. If the kid doesn't want to do this, it's hard to talk them into things. I've done it a couple of times, but it's hard to do it. And did the parents want to go ahead and go through the evaluation and finalize the enrollment tonight, right? And within that, if I get all positive buying signals, I'm also going to ask, now depending upon how much volume I have, but let's say I have 6 second intros scheduled. I'm going to ask, how's your schedule? Class is going to be from 6:15 to 7. Are you okay for a few minutes after that, or do you have someplace you need to be? Oh, no, we have to be at Scouts. That starts at 7:10. In fact, we may have to leave a little early. Well, I better know that, right? Because otherwise, I'm planning on they're having an enrollment conference after class, and they're jetting for the door, or I'm pulling them into the office, and they're looking at their watch, right? See, that's not very productive. So I want to know that all the decision makers are there. Certainly, I want to know that both parents are there. I want to know that that they've talked to the child, they've gone through the information, that he or she is excited about it, and that they'd like to go through the evaluation and finalize the enrollment tonight, right? Now, sometimes when I'm asking that, is they'll say, well, we don't even know how much it is yet. Okay, sure. Assuming it works okay for the budget, is this something that Billy wants to do that you want Billy to do? What did I just do? Assuming money's no object, or assuming it was free, is this something you want to do? Well, sure, if we can work it in the budget, we definitely want him to do it where he's really excited about it. Okay. Well, what do I know? I don't have an issue other than if they're broke, I got a problem. And if they're not broke, I don't have a problem, but I'm going to have to, see from there, right? Everybody so far so good? So on the way in the door, I'm pre-qualifying. I'm going through my checklist. And then usually we're putting them into the beginner class. So I'm going to make sure somebody really good is walking them into the beginner class, right? I'm not going to say, oh, and your class is over there. Go jump in, right? If I'm the program director, I'm walking them over and we're bowing at the edge of the floor, if that's what you do, whatever it is, showing them where to put their shoes, putting them in the uniform, if they've already got the uniform or if they didn't wear in the uniform. And then I'm going to walk them into class. And if I'm not the instructor, I'm going to be, Mr. Smith, this is Billy. We talked about Billy from last time. I think you met him on Monday. He's here for his second class. I couldn't talk Sue and Bill into taking class. But are you guys sure you're not going to, right? I'm still working on them. But they're going to be here for class. And then we're going to do a little evaluation on Billy towards the end of class. So I need you to make sure I'll usually give them, here's the sheet, here's the pen. I want you to do a little evaluation on him during class. Now, I'm going to say this in front of the parents, right? But that way they know that there's communication and the instructor knows who they are, one thing or another. And then I'm going to make sure that when I have extra staff there, SWAT team, whatever you want to call them, that people know these are our intros. They can't get lost in the shuffle. They can't fall through the cracks. They can't be turned backwards picking their nose. They've got to be engaged, right? So I'm going to have somebody paying attention to them the entire time, not just the primary instructor. Okay, Master Smith, anything that you would add to all of that so far as I
would
take a breath?
I would say in that first intro, there's two people you got to make happy. Number one is the kid. So I've got to make sure that I have it high energy and I'm high-fiving, and or nowadays maybe air high five.
Yeah.
And
Elbow bumping.
yeah, and if you get the kid excited, well, now we got to get the parent excited. Well, how do we get the parent excited? Well, number one, as Master Oliver says, when we're doing back in live in the school where the parents are there, we try to get them up to hold the target or do the kicking or get them to participate. But the other thing that I cover in that first intro, I make sure I cover the 4 laws of concentration, and they understand what that is. I make sure I cover the 7 magic words of respect, because I'm going to tell you, nobody else is teaching kids discipline and respect like we do. But we've got to show them that we have a system for that. Nobody teaches kids concentration like we do. We've got to show them that we have a system that teaches that. That automatically adds value to your program, much above what just kicking and punching is. And then the third thing is I've got to make sure I get across that they're going to have a chance to earn their white belt on that next class. And they're going to have to do these 3 things. And we even cut it down from learning the whole student creed to just learning the first paragraph. Because that way I know everybody can do it, even our 3 and 4-year-olds. I also make sure that they understand when they come back to be there 15 minutes early, because I'm also going to get them sized up for their free uniform. See, I want that uniform as my carrot. I want that white belt that they're going to earn as the carrot. I want them to be able to do that self-discipline. So we prove to the parent that we can make an impact on their kid, get them to do things that the parents couldn't even get them to do for the last several years probably, without being an argument or a fight to get them to help around the house. And now they run and do 3 things real quick without even being asked. And now the kid wants to come to get his uniform. He wants to come to get his belt. And we find that when we can get him to come back and earn that belt, get that uniform, we end up with about an 80% closing rate. Now, again, the class has to be fun. We don't just let the parents wander in on that second class. We're right there to meet them and greet them at the door when they come for that second lesson. We bring them back. We get that uniform on them. We do their little test for their white belt, and then we'll present that at the beginning of the class. So everybody's clapping for them when they get that belt. Now they feel like they're part of the group. And the parent is all proud that they earned that belt. So those are just a few things that I would add there, Master Oliver.
Yeah. Questions and all this so far?
Yes, sir. If I could ask a quick question.
Go ahead.
On the thing with the multiple, like you have lots of second intros.
Right.
What is the thing that you did? I missed some part about how do you make so that you can actually, are you scheduling them out for different days? Are you scheduling the time ahead of time? How do you make it so you can actually have a chance to talk to, it actually already happened and then you addressed it today and.
Yeah.
Can I answer that, Master Oliver?
Go ahead.
Steve, what's real important is that during that class, see, we have such an advantage when they can be in the school and the parents are sitting there watching them, because now we can make sure that we're interacting with the kid, we're spotlighting him, so everybody's giving him a hand for finding him doing something good. So what my program director will do, will go by, and because everybody's in there for 2 weeks, so on the virtual, we were automatically scheduling that second and the third for the conference. But when they're in the school, we want to talk to them right then. We find that we can usually talk to about 4 or 5 families, but we have to know which ones to talk to. Don't waste your time talking to somebody who is not bought into the program emotionally yet. So what they do is they go by and they reschedule everybody for their next class and they ask them some leading questions. How did Tommy like it? Or they'll say things like, I was so impressed that Tommy earned his white belt today. I'm going to tell you, Mrs. Jones, our kids who earned that white belt on their very first class coming into the group, we know those are the ones that even go all the way to the black belt. So I'm very impressed. And now the parents will usually give us some comments back. Well, I was shocked because I've been trying to get him to do that forever and blah, blah, blah. So that tells me they're a good prospect to talk to today. The buying temperature is there. If they give me this, if the kid didn't earn his white belt, I'm probably not going to talk to him today. If the parent gives me some negative stuff, then I'm going to put them on the back burner. I might talk to them the next class and try to get them a little bit more buying temperature up. You follow me? So when I go by and talk to everybody, say there's 6 of them, I'll actually put them in order that I'm going to talk to them today, but I won't do it till I talk to everybody. But those that look hot, look like they have the buying temperature, I will say to that parent, I'm going to say, well, we're going to be talking to some of the parents today. So if we have time to get to you today, I'll come by and get you and let you know. If not, we'll talk to you when you come in the next time. Because it could be that I have 6 or 7 and all of them are hot. Well, I'm not going to be able to talk to all of them. So I don't want to tell anybody I'm going to talk to you today and then not get to them. I want to talk to the hottest one first. And I put it number 1. I go down and I'll rate every one of them. And then as soon as I've gone through and scheduled and rated them, then I'm going to start pulling them in the office because my hottest one I know is ready to go. So I bring them in even while the class is going on. Because during the class, I'm going to try to close at least 2, maybe even 3. And then I'm going to grab somebody right after class. And then when I grab that one right after class, I'll tell my next one that I'm going to talk to that as soon as I finish with Mrs. Jones, do you have a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll be right with you? If they say no, I say, no problem, we'll talk next time. I'm going to go to the next one, tell them that I'll talk to them. So I've got like 2 after, and then I get 2 or 3 during the class that are hot. Does that help, Steve?
Fired up, very much. Good, sir.
Let me expand on that, although that was kind of long-winded, but we'll make it even worse. It
was detailed, Master Oliver.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick on your language too, but that's okay. But when you're doing it by Zoom, right? I would argue that the only thing that puts a little bit of a damper on is it's a little bit more difficult to pull them up to the side and talk to each of them face to face. You got to get used to the breakout rooms and you got to get them to respond, right? And so you want to have them prep to enroll before they come in. But when in the Zoom environment, you're in most cases, I would say, scheduling them for a 3rd time when it's just them, when it's a private time to do the enrollment, okay? When you're in a group setting in the school, and of course, we're probably going to be in a hybrid for a while, right? But when you're in the group session for the school, you're old enough to remember the TV show MASH, or better, the movie, right? It's triage. You're going through, and to emphasize what Master Smith said, I already know that I have some that are A+, that are A's, that are B's, that are C's, right? And I should know that because I went through after their first lesson and did some evaluation on what the situation is. This one I know is moving in 2 months. This one I know, we're never going to get Dad to show up. This one I know, well, that kind of conversation should be happening every night with all the staff, so you know. Plus, you're kind of ABCing them right away. Well, how was Susie? Oh, she was, AAA. How was Mom? She was great. How about Dad? Don't know, but it is a 2-parent household, and right. So you know a lot of that stuff to begin with, right? So when I have 7-second intros at the same time, I already know before they get there. These 3, I think, are A's. These are B+, and these are, are C's, right? But then I'm triaging. So as I'm asking each of them questions on the way in, I'm verifying. Well, this one I thought was like this, but now I've got both parents. They're really excited. And, Dad's been the one pushing this. So, although it's the first time I've ever talked to him. And he studied, right? So now I put that one up on the list. And I've got this one who was an A+ that Dad didn't show up, right? So everybody who's going to go to a 3rd appointment, and to clarify what Master Smith said, I'm never putting them to 2 weeks free. here's the class schedule, come for 2 weeks, and I go see who I'm going to talk to, right? They're scheduled for an appointment. And if I decide they're not ready for me to go through the entire process today, I'm scheduling them for a third time, and then I'm prepping them to be ready next time, right? So if I don't have both parents, or if they haven't gone through any of the material, or if they really haven't had a chance to talk about it, those are going to be reasons for me to schedule them for a third time, and for me to walk through why it is important to do all those things so we can be prepared next time. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Matt Smith, anything else to add to that to further make it long-winded before we call it a day? Or Master Moody?
I think that's the key. You got to get them to earn that white belt. I like to size them up for their uniform on that first class, and then tell them I'm going to have that here at the school for them. We're going to pick it up at our warehouse kind of thing. So they know that next time they're going to be able to get their uniform, because that little carrot of coming back makes a big deal. And earning that white belt. And it's not just that the kid earned the white belt that makes him feel good, but we actually prove to the parent that we can get them to do something that they couldn't. Because I guarantee you 99% of those parents don't have those kids who are helping out around the house all the time. So if we can get that bit in there, combined with the 4 laws of concentration that show them we're going to teach their kids how to focus, and these kids start using some respect. Because we tell them not only the 7 magic words, but we want them to use those between now and the next class, so they can prove to their parents that they're serious about being a martial artist. So those things all become very important subtly.
Yeah, and next time we can pick up on if it's an adult for themselves, right? Because that has a little bit of difference in the process. And then we'll go back and go more thoroughly through first intro, and go more thoroughly through some of the prep process, right? And I started with, they were an inbound call. So we also have to go back to, it's a lead coming in and how that conversation evolves, right? Because a slight difference there. But what we're trying to do is go through the entire process A to Z, make sure we don't miss anything. And again, what I usually see the problem is it's not with class wasn't fun or the intro wasn't fun. It's that all the little subtleties around it get lost, right? And so they don't come in prepped to enroll, or I don't have both parents ready to enroll, or they haven't really reviewed the information and what materials I should have sent home. And even the materials, we could spend a day on this, but I don't want to send them home all of the technical stuff about our style and, all of that kind of crap. Sometimes it's useful if you have a parent who has a background or something, sometimes that's useful. But usually what I want it to be is I want it to be overwhelming proof of the outcome, of the benefit outcome, not all that kind of technical stuff about what we're doing, right? So on that note,
One minute, Master Oliver, just one last thing. To fine tune your systems that he was just showing you, we need to know what your real stats are. So you got to be super accurate on how many leads to appointments, to first intro, to second intro, to enrollment. Because if we know those numbers, we can tell you how good a job you're doing without even being there. But if you don't have those accurate numbers, we're guessing.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, what we know is that different cities, different counties, different states are all over the board on what's going on. There's, as Alexia mentioned before, it adds to the confusion of what that needs to be done. Well, what we know needs to be done is every day we need to do a ton of marketing to make sure we have enough intro traffic that we're filling the school up with enrollments. We need to go rescue everybody who fell through the cracks, and we need to keep everybody else engaged. And if that's doing Zoom plus we're doing class in the park, or if it's doing Zoom, we're doing class in the park and we're doing 5 people at a time or 10 people at a time, or if we're just kind of back to normal outdoors and we're doing 15 people in the school or whatever. All of that is detail, right? Marketing, keep your enrollment flow, pull people in who got lost in the shuffle, and keep everybody engaged who's there, right? All of those different class, you know, it's no different than normal summer or in Florida, normal winter, when we say we're going to go out to the park and have class today, right? I mean, it's just no different than that. You just want to stay on your normal class schedule, keep it simple, keep everybody engaged. And the last thing I would say is, remember, it's the dimmer switch. It's not flip the switch. I see a lot of people are just like, hey, everything's back to normal. Well, keep the Zoom things going. Keep virtual as well as physical. The first 20% of your student body are going to show up at the school, and they're going to tell you, oh, this mask thing is crap, and, you know, we don't use hand sanitizers, and don't worry. Well, they're the ones that just are over it and don't care, right? What I'm more concerned about is the 20% who, like, they're not leaving their house until there's 3 cures and 12 vaccines, right? So be aware there's that spectrum, and go to safe. Be a little over what's required, not under what's required. Be a little over aggressive about getting your business going, not under aggressive. And again, I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission, right? Don't think anything is hopeless, but just keep focused on enrollments, retention, and reactivation. You know, the other R was renewals, but right now focus on retention, reactivation, and keeping your enrollment flow going strong. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, on that, we'll call it a day. And Matt Smith, I'll blame you for being 4 minutes over.
No, you were the last one talking.
He went a minute and he was only a minute. I timed it. It's good.
Okay, well, then I'll take the blame. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Brady.